All right, so there's been a lot of discussion about the contact play. Why? Because of this play right here.
Ground ball, Rod comes home, throw is wide, slide, he's out.
Now, we all know why it was a controversial decision, because ultimately it didn't work out in the Reds' favor. If it would have, we all know that this really wouldn't have become a thing. And all of a sudden, I'm engagement farming because I said that the Reds made the right play, and somehow we're just bowing down to the man again. No, I'm going to stand up for what's right and what's wrong in a baseball game. I just got done ridiculing the decision by Elly De La Cruz to steal second base. Elly, by the way, great player. Congrats on the All-Star. Best player on the Reds by far. I also want to make this video very short, but in order to do a good job, it's going to take a minute, so bear with me, please. The thing about the contact play is it can become confusing for those that might not have played baseball or perhaps have been around the game of baseball for a very long time. And the thing about the contact play is there's a lot of variables that go into it. I could spend a 15-minute conversation talking about the contact play and when you should use it and when you shouldn't. It's not always the right play. Now, I understand fans are going to fan. You're right. You're frustrated right after it. Maybe you're upset. You think it's a bad play, this, that, and the other. But if you sit back for a minute, you know it's the right baseball play if you know baseball. Now, one might ask, how many times does this work? Well, I kept getting tagged and tagged and tagged as I was defending this play by the same article. An article let's dive into. Headline: the Cincinnati Reds should abandon the contact play following Friday night's loss. All right, let's get into it. The first thing that I have a semi-issue with is that I've spent quite literally 7 hours in the MLB film room, and I've yet to come up with this statistic. The Reds have scored a run 12 times in the 21 total attempts they've attempted this scenario. Now, I think we have to revisit what a contact play actually is. A contact play comes from the standpoint when there's a guy at third base, a runner at third base. Sometimes there might be a runner at second base. There's never a situation where the contact play is with the bases loaded because, as we all know, you have to run on contact no matter what with the bases loaded. But I want to be very clear in this because I'm not sure how many people actually know all these things. So when there's a runner at second base and third base, or just a guy at third base with less than 2 outs, so that's 0 or 1 out, and the ball is hit on the ground, sometimes a team will run the contact play, which means as soon as the ball is hit, and again, this is important, the actual runner at third base uses his brain and they see that the ball is going to be down, right? It's going to be down, hit on the ground, they take off. Don't believe me? You could take the 2019 College Baseball Coach of the Year's word for it.
We like to run that 95% of the time with 1 out, wherever the infield is. If the ball's struck and it's down.
With the contact play, there's a lot of unique scenarios. We'll run through those right now until we get to the true contact plays, where at the bottom you can see I have a thumbs up for how many times the contact play has worked for the Reds in 2023 and 2024, a thumbs down for how many times it did not work, and we have the marker here, as you can see, where it's a unique situation, it's a unique play. I don't think it should count for either side. Let's jump into all those unique situations now. All right, I wanted to make this video super quick, and the reality is in order to do a good job, I have to explain all these different things because I think it's important for you to understand why these decisions are being made. You have a fast runner at the plate in TJ Friedl. You know you're going on contact at third base, and you know, worst case scenario here, you're probably going to have a first and third situation, which is exactly what happens. Why is that a big deal? Well, I'll show you why. Right here, Matt McLain's up. Very next at bat. He hits a ground ball to first base, but the runner's on the move. You had a fast runner, you're going to steal second base, and you score the run that you inevitably wouldn't have scored if you didn't go in the first place. So you, again, not simplistic. One play worked, one play didn't, so it's a wash. Unique play, one. All right, so the next situation is double play balls. Now, I'll be honest with you, this video is already going to go too long, longer than I would like it to be, but hopefully you're learning something, and I think you're going to learn a lot if you watch the rest of this video. But double play balls, we can get into a lot of different things. We get down a rabbit hole. As you can see against the Cardinals here, they get the guy out at home, and then the next time, as you can see here in a moment, the Cubs, they get the out at second base instead of going home. It really is just the luck of the draw on how well the ball is hit, if it's right at a defender or not. We'll get into that here in just a moment on some other contact plays, but that is double play as a whole. One, it worked, one, it didn't, but it shouldn't count as an overall arching idea of whether or not this is good or bad. All right, to jump back into the article, I hate to do that, but I have to. Why? Because these things don't make sense. Reds have been thrown out attempting this play 8 times, including once when the runner at third was doubled up on a line drive to shortstop. Now, as we all know, because I started this video off explaining what a contact play, that is not the contact play. That's just bad base running. But I digress. Later in the article, it says there's been one time, and it was Elly De La Cruz that did this, where the runner saw that they wouldn't score on the ground ball and slid back to third base under the tag. That's not the contact play either. There was nobody out in that inning. Elly was supposed to read the ball to anybody but the pitcher. He did that. He almost took off, almost made a bad base running mistake. There was 0 outs. That's not a contact play either when they're conceding the run. But that's not a contact play. As you can see, both those plays, neither one of them is a contact play, so we move on. Now, I know what you're thinking. Trace, just get to the plays. Just get to the plays. But this stuff is important, and here's why. This is the same situation with the double play opportunity. 1st and 3rd, 1 out. Matt McClain hits a little dribbler right back to the pitcher. But here's the most important thing about all of this. Instead of going for the double play, Benson gets in a rundown. Why? Because one important thing to know about the contact play is if you know you're dead to rights, what do? You turn back around and you go back to third base and you try to force the catcher to have to yield himself all the way back to third base just so the guy that just hit the ball can run all the way around to second base. That is supposed to be a failed contact play, but the truth is, it's not. That is, of course, if you don't have Kevin Newman and Nick Senzel on the bases and neither one of them know the rules and they find themselves in a position where the wrong guy steps off the base and it's a double play. All right, finally, we've made it to the good stuff, the actual contact plays. Now, as I said, I went through 134 videos in MLB Film Room to try to make sure that I found every possible play there was that was a true contact play. 2023 and 2024. Supposedly there was 21 plays in 2024. I found 18 total plays in 2023 and 2024 total as a combined. There's some bad base running, as I'm showing you here in these clips. That's bad base running, not a contact play. Lastly, a couple situations I didn't include because they're not actual contact plays. They might have looked like it in MLB Film Room based off the results, the filter search, but they're not. Safety squeezes by Luke Maile, a couple conceded runs by the other team, and then an error by the first baseman that anybody could have scored on. Not counting any of those. Some were for the contact play, some were not. And then one that in good faith I can't include either is this slide by Ellie. You would have walked it off. Clearly safe as could be, but some weird situation where his hand just didn't touch the plate. They couldn't review it, and ultimately it just didn't count. If you're anti-contact play, go ahead and include it in the results. I could care less. All right, first is April 14th, 2024. India grounds into third. Martini, he's out at home. One thing I did notice about a lot of these plays is, sliding. I'd like for them to start sliding to the outside more, quite frankly, on these plays that they are out at home. In Martini's case, just sliding period would be nice. Next, June 22nd, 2024, Candy hits a fielder's choice to home. Ellie would get picked off on the next hitter. Reds would lose a one-run game. This is probably the most frustrating one of them all. June 25th, 2024, Mitch Keller barely gets India at the plate. Reds would ultimately end up losing 9-5. June 21st, 2024, Espinal gets thrown out at the plate. Reds would win 5-2. But again, we kind of need better slides at home if we're being completely honest. Just not a very good slide by Espinal. May 23rd, 2024, Machado makes a really good play. Backhanded play, gets Elliott plate. Reds would end up losing 6-4, but another really, really close play. A lot of these plays that they were out, they were ultimately very, very close. Will Benson, he almost beats another throw here. Reds would go on to win 5-2. That play got challenged. It got upheld. Some of these probably calling the field would stand. I digress. Friedel, he also is a guy that beats the throw home, but the slide, not all that ideal. He ends up becoming out. And then we get to July 18th, 2023. Fraley, he gets tossed out at home. Reds lose 11-10. And of course, July 5th, 2024, how could we forget Blake Dunn? He's out at the plate. Fight amongst yourselves whether you think Marte gets hit with a standard defense. I personally don't think he did, but that's here nor there. So that's 6 contacts plays that did not work in 2024, 3 in 2023. Now, I included a quick snippet of 5 of the 6 results where the score was either tied or the Reds lost, of the situation of what happened the batter after. I'm not going to get into the debate of whether or not they mattered or didn't matter, but 5 of the 6 times the next hitter ultimately was out. All right, so you're probably thinking, does this thing ever work? Does it ever work? Well, here we go. April 6, 2024, error occurs that lets Candy score here. Reds would win 9-6. March 28th, 2024, Ellie on a Stevenson grounder. You'll see here in just a moment. Bad base running by Steer, if we're being completely honest right here. You'll see the play. Steer's got to know that essentially don't break to third base until you see the throw home, and or once you see the air, just stay put at second base. But I digress. More bad base running from the Reds. That was April 6th, 2024. April 8th, 2024, Espinal hits a grounder. Ellie scores from third base. Reds would win 10-8. June 3rd, 2024, Golden Glover Brendan Rodgers Can't make the play with Candy going on contact. Tough look for those that are acting like it's the major leagues. Anybody can throw these guys out at home. But the Golden Glover wasn't able to do it. Reds would win 13-3. June 8th, 2024, India scores the Reds' fourth run on the Friedel groundout. The Reds would win 4-3. So there you have 5 successful plays in 2024. How about 2023, you might ask? Well, they had success against the Rangers. They had success against the Brewers. You can see in these 2 clips, just your standard contact play. Not always the easiest to play. It's not the easiest play to make when you're an infielder and you know the guy's going home and you got to make a relatively decent throw and you got to make sure there's absolutely no bobble of the baseball or else, quite honestly, he's going to be safe. And if you wait on it a little too long or you're playing in a position where a fast runner's running, you still might not get it. Here's the kicker, though. Remember that 12-game winning streak? On back-to-back nights of that 12-game winning streak, the Reds went on contact to essentially win the game. To win the game. First against the Cardinals, and then against the Kansas City Royals. You can see Friedel sliding in home here. He gets called out, but he's not out. There was a review of the play. Friedel's hand snuck in there. He scored. Reds win. Reds would ultimately win, and here we are. We got 9 versus 9. And ultimately, at the end of the day, even if you're not even that successful, analytics would tell you that you should keep going because the difference between being on third base and first base with 2 outs is a roughly like 17%. All right, so of course, when I get this video done, Ellie decides to ruin it and scored literally tonight on a contact play, giving it a 10-9 advantage. But as I said before, really, we're not even close to the line where we should be questioning if this is a right decision. Like a little bit of an idiot for spending like every bit of 30 hours on doing this when I knew the Reds probably had an analytic department that, I don't know, already knew that the math makes sense to keep doing the contact play. But that's here nor there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something about baseball. As always, tune in to Chatterbox Reds live in the 9th inning after every single game. And as always, podcast every single morning after each and every Reds game. Thanks, and hopefully you learned something.